All right, today, guys, we're going to talk about the rise of new empires. So, we're in particular going to talk about the Assyrians and the Persians, and they're both hanging out over in Western Asia. All right, here we go. So, the Assyrians, who are from the upper Tigris River, we're talking in this area here. Okay, so remember, this is Mesopotamia. Okay, so you got the Tigris and the Euphrates run through here. So the Assyrians are right in this area here. They formed the Assyrian Empire by 700 BC. And they were known for their military prowess. And they were known for being like super, super terrifying. Okay, they were very, they used fear, they used terror, they were very brutal people. But they used iron and a large, well-disciplined army of infantry, cavalry. Okay, so cavalry is soldiers on horseback, and then archers. And oftentimes those guys were even on chariots, and so you were getting shot at from closer distances, and that's worse. Okay. And also, like I mentioned, they used terror to subdue people, laying waste to people's lands and torturing their captives. And like I said, they were very, very brutal. They were known for that. So the king in Assyria had absolute power. He organized the government with local officials who were directly responsible to the king. That's something throughout as we go through this that you're going to see a lot, where there's a king, and then as the empire grows, he can't control all of it, so he will elect local rulers to rule for him, but they always answer to him. And as a result of this empire growing so much, they developed an efficient communication system in order to administer the empire. So if you're going to have somebody rule for you, you got to be able to communicate with them. And so there's going to be a network of posts with horses carrying messages. And it was said that a message could go from a governor anywhere in the empire to the king and be answered back in 1 week. And at the time, that was crazy fast. Today we just send a text, and your friend's paying attention, then they send a text right back. Okay, that's not how it worked back then. But to travel that far to and from with the message is pretty darn fast. So the Syrian king Ashurbanipal, he founded one of the world's first libraries, and it provided a great deal of information about Southwest Asian civilizations. This is the picture. This is the library right here. The Assyrian Empire collapsed when the Chaldean king Nebuchadnezzar made Babylonia the leading state of Western Asia, and so it will become Babylonia will become Babylon. Really, will become one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. And it did not last long. Okay, Babylonia did not last long until the Persians are going to conquer it in 539 BC. So the Persians were a nomadic people. They were Indo-European, so they were people living in what is today southwest Iran. And one family unified the various groups of the empire. And so Cyrus is going to, that's Cyrus right there. Cyrus is going to create a powerful Persian state in Asia Minor, that's where Turkey is, to Western India, so all the way out to Western India. So this was a very large empire. And they captured Babylon, and he treated his subjects, his new subjects, with restraint. So here's the thing, is to join the Persian Empire didn't necessarily mean, or to get conquered by them, didn't necessarily mean that you were just going to get ransacked and be killed. The Persians were actually pretty decent to the people they conquered. Okay, so he didn't just kill people just because they weren't of his ethnicity. He also allowed Jews to return to Jerusalem. Okay, so the Jews had been driven out of Jerusalem, and now he's saying you guys can go back. It was yours in the first place. His sons are going to extend the Persian Empire. Cambyses is going to successfully invade Egypt and take over that. And then Darius, who's going to rule from 521 to 46 BC, is going to extend the empire into India and into Europe. And he's going to create the largest empire the world had known up until that point. He's going to strengthen the Persian government by dividing the empire into 20 provinces. These were known as satrapies, and a governor or a satrap, who's protector of the kingdom is what satrap means. A governor was responsible for collecting taxes, handling legal matters, and then recruiting soldiers. And once again, having an efficient communication system is going to help in that regard. So Darius is the ruler, but these satraps are ruling in local areas on his behalf. Okay, so communication with those guys is going to be very important. Like I said, communication system, they used horses and way stations along what was called the Royal Road, and that went from Lydia to the empire's capital at Susa. So that went all the way from here to there. Okay, so this is the Royal Road right here. Much of the Persian Empire's power was due to its military, a very, very strong military. They had a standing army of professional soldiers from all over the empire. And at the core is an elite group of soldiers, and they were known as the Immortals. Okay, so if you've seen the movie 300, they did talk about the Immortals. That's not exactly how it worked out. But basically, if one of the Immortals is killed, there was somebody right there to replace them. So it was constant replacing people, so that it wasn't that the person was immortal, but that spot basically was. Okay, so the Immortals were made up of 10,000 cavalry and 10,000 infantry. Okay, so this right here is what they would have looked like in battle. Okay, that's an immortal with his shield and his armor and his weapons. So the Persian Empire declined for reasons that are common to the decline of empires. So we're going to, as we go through history, we're going to talk a lot about empires declining. So the kings started to isolate themselves at court. They started to get more concerned with having fun and living a rich lifestyle instead of actually ruling their people. They also levied, as a result of this, usually they levied high taxes that weakened the people's loyalty. So whenever people are getting taxed very high and you're out living a lavish lifestyle and I'm very, very poor, that doesn't really sit well with me. Okay, so those people are going to revolt against that. Factions were struggling for control of the throne, and of the 9 rulers after Darius, 6 of them were murdered in plots. So they were assassinated. And so these bloody struggles are going to weaken the Persian monarchy, monarchy being ruled by a king or queen. And then it's going to be Alexander the Great, who was Macedonian, but he's going to conquer Persia during the 330s BC, and that's going to be basically the end of the Persian Empire. So the most original Persian cultural contribution was the religion of Zoroastrianism, which still exists to this day. Zoroaster was born in 660 BC, and he had visions that caused him to be declared a prophet. Okay, so remember, a prophet is a teacher, somebody sent from God. And his teachings were written in the sacred book called the Zend-Avesta, and it's a monotheistic religion. And basically it said that the universe was created by the good of Ahura Mazda, who was God, and brought everything into being. But there's an evil spirit named Ahriman. And basically Zoroaster said people are free, they have free will. So you can choose to be good or you can choose to be bad. But eventually good will triumph. And in the last judgment at the end of the world, good and evil would finally separate. Okay, so there will be no more in between. There would be basically heaven or hell. Okay, all right. That is all I got for you today. Your homework is the acrostic Assyrians is your word, so make sure you're writing complete sentence for every single letter. Okay, you can use names. You could talk like Yoda. So you can say like universe. Actually, Ahura Mazda created the universe. That's really bad. But anyway, you can move sentences around and things like that to make it work. All right, you guys all have a wonderful day.